8 people.
Westborough TV, all set?
All set?
Let me call this meeting to order. This is meeting number 26 of fiscal year 23 for the Advisory Finance Committee. Today is March 16th, 2023. Pursuant to Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the meeting location posted on the AFC website, and it is possible that any or all of the members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting only of members of the public. The meeting may be accessed remotely via the link posted on the AFC website. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as mentioned. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Westborough TV, Verizon Channel 28, or Charter Channel 192, and concurrently recorded, and as soon as possible after the meeting, posted on the Westborough TV YouTube site. Since we have no minutes for this to vote on this meeting, we'll move on to the first order of business, and that, excuse me, that is to discuss Article 16, the I can't say it either, the Huckamunka Pond.
Is it with an N or not with an N?
It's with an N according to the warrant, and that's how we're going to try to pronounce it. We have a couple of guests from the Huckamunka Pond Committee, Mark Silverberg and Hank Rauch. Mr. Silverberg, are you going to make a presentation for us?
Well, yeah, first I'll say, do I have to do the name and street address? Do you guys have?
No, that's fine.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
okay.
You're a guest.
So I already screwed up, so get used to it. First I'll say, my apologies. I know Shelby Marshall, our chairperson, would like to have been here, but she has a select board meeting tonight. So I and Hank Rauch have volunteered to work through this presentation as best we can and answer your questions as best as I can. So bear with me.
Lauren, can you talk into the mic better, please?
Certainly, Matt. Sorry about that. Is that better?
Sounds
I
good.
think she said yes.
Yeah.
All right, so if I can get the presentation up on the screen, I think Westborough TV is going to help me with that, so you guys can see it.
Hang on, we'll get some help. Yeah.
Mark,
that's cool.
working on it now.
Oh, she does.
Almost.
What was there?
Is there a second ago?
She's give her a chance. Here we go.
Nice.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Article 16 has to do with Huckamunka Pond, which is at the corner of Smith Parkway and Otis Street, right next to the train station. It's a 26-acre parcel, including the pond. And the purpose of the article is the committee is requesting $30,820. The purpose of that is to develop a work plan and a health and safety plan for certain tasks that the committee has determined need to be completed. They're very basic tasks, the bare minimum that we need to do to get the site open to the public. And also, part of that $30,000 will develop bid documents so that we can go out and get a security fence put up around 2 landfill areas. And as I get further in the presentation, that'll make more sense. So here's the site, and for reference, the train station is here. This is the corner of Otis and Smith Parkway where the streetlight is. Amazon Robotics is here, and the water treatment plant is here. This red area is the 26-acre site, and again, it includes the pond. There's an existing building on that. We're not proposing any new uses for that at this time. There's a gated entrance with a driveway here. We're not proposing any parking on site at this time. This area B is known, I often call it the lagoon, and it's really two landfills. There's two grassy areas here that are landfills. And it will make more sense if I give you some of the history. This parcel used to be a creosote wood treatment facility, so they had these big lagoons of creosote, and they would dip telephone poles into them. And that happened for quite some time until they figured out that creosote was a carcinogen. So in 1983, it was designated as a Superfund site. Cleanup continued until 2019. And actually prior to that, in 2017, the town signed a notice of activity use and limitation agreement with EPA and the Department of Environmental Protection. The highlights of that is those landfill areas that I pointed to before have to remain secure. The ground can't be disturbed on those areas at all. And we can't put housing, schools, agriculture, water wells anywhere on the 26 acres. Any soil disturbance requires oversight and approval by EPA. So what are we recommending? We're recommending a trail system along the pond with a goal of creating a loop trail around the entire pond. I'm not sure if you're aware, but when 50 Otis Street, the Amazon building was built, the planning board negotiated easements with them. We're still finalizing the wording on that, but we should be able to access all the way around the pond with walking trails and connect to the charm bracelet, which you'll see further. We're also proposing that we limit site access to certain locations to make sure there's no vehicle access to the property other than authorized vehicle access for maintenance, mowing those areas, that kind of thing, but no public vehicle access. And that would all be in compliance with the activity use agreement that we have with EPA. So this is essentially what we're proposing. There's an existing trail here, so that follows down here. We're proposing connecting it through here, and this green trail is actually on the site, but this is already part of the charm bracelet. It's a West Land Trust trail that starts directly across from the train station. So we'll connect to it about at this point, and then continue around the pond, and then in the future, make it all the way around. There'll also be a side trail here that goes down closer to the pond and connects back to that same trail. This purple line, I don't know how easy that is to see, that's the existing perimeter fence. What we're proposing is to put a new security fence around those two landfill areas, and then this would remain in place, so those would be completely secured. There'd be gates here for maintenance access, but only for that. That would enable the rest of the site to be open for the public to walk and enjoy the site. I think that's about it on the description of the site. So this money will be used to hire an engineering firm to do three things: a work plan, health and safety plan, and bid documents. So EPA doesn't just let anybody come up with a plan for this site. It has to be done by a licensed site professional who's familiar with this type of, Superfund site, and it has to be done in accordance with their regulations. So we need to hire an expert to do it. Any use of this site, we would need to do this. So it's not, no matter what we decide to do with that site, and I hope we continue using it for passive recreation because it is a gorgeous site. This is really just the start. It's the bare minimum we need to get this process rolling. Once we have the engineer's bid documents, we can go out and get an estimate on how much the fence would cost. And at that point, the committee will make a decision about whether to come back to town meeting. Questions? Do you guys want to see a video?
Yep. Get to see a movie, hey.
Let's see if I can get this. Oh, here we go. I have to shut my laser pointer off. See if this works. Jeff Poole at Westborough TV helped me with this, and I don't know if it'll work. So it's on playing, but you guys can't see it. No, it is. The timer's gone. Well, being the tech, non-technical person that I am, I do not understand why it's not showing on your screen. If you give me a second, I can pull it up outside of the PowerPoint. Sorry. See if I can get it to you this way. All right, so there's the corner, and then you see this is a flyover from.
Can the AFC folks who are in remotely see this?
And those
Guess so.
those two cleared areas are the landfills that we have to fence in.
Yeah, we can see it, we just can't hear anything.
Nothing to hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can barely get the thing to play, but I'm only doing voiceover. That's your
You can see the MBTA station,
On the left.
properties on the left over there, and the pond on the right.
and then the property ends, right, narrows it down, and pretty much you'll see the ending where that commercial building starts.
Okay.
It ends at the water treatment access road.
Okay.
Questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. So currently, the fence that's surrounding the two landfill areas is the fence that's surrounding the entire area that you want to take down?
We're not taking
Or do
down
you
any
not have
fence.
fence there at all?
Yeah, we're not taking down any fence. We're just, we're proposing adding a fence around the two landfill areas.
Beth, at the current time, no public access is allowed on the site.
Right, I knew that, and therefore there's a fence all the way around the site.
Right.
There is a fence all the way around the site.
Okay. And then you have to fence the landfill specifically to protect people from the landfill,
That's
And then-
correct.
right? And then the question is, are you just opening a gate in the fence that's all the way around, or are you taking the old fence and changing it somehow?
Well, so to be clear, we're not actually doing any of this until we go out to bid. But we're proposing, if you can see this map,
Yeah,
this fence here, we'll take a section of fence out and put some boulders in to prevent vehicle access. And then here, we'll take a section of fence out, and that will end up connecting to the existing land trust trail, and we'll probably put some boulders here along Smith Parkway as well, although that terrain would be difficult for a vehicle.
Okay.
So that, this driveway here, I'm sorry, I turned my pointer off, but this driveway here will remain gated and only for use by authorized personnel, authorized vehicles. The company that's responsible for the cleanup does still have to access the site periodically, just
So what,
just to check
so
the
does the
status.
EPA have a designation for Superfund sites that have been cleaned up, like to what level it's being cleaned to their satisfaction or something?
Beth, the site has been turned over to the town of Westborough. The town of
Yeah,
Westborough,
okay.
the town of Westborough now owns the property, it's registered with the registry of deeds. The site,
Okay.
the EPA has released the site. However, there's a legal agreement that we're not allowed to do anything with it without DEP and EPA approval.
Okay.
Yeah, it is deemed usable and safe, if that's what you're asking.
That's kind of what I was asking, like to what level that we,
I don't
you know, has it-
know, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but, they would have signed that use agreement in 2017 if they didn't feel it was ready to be released from the remediation process.
Okay.
Gene?
I understand there's no plans to put any trailhead parking on the site. What's the nearest trailhead parking?
Well, there's public parking all along Smith Parkway,
Okay,
outside of the train station.
Right.
There's also public parking at the train station, but that's for a fee, but
yeah,
there is quite a few parking spaces along Smith Parkway,
okay.
and that's very little use, particularly on weekends,
Yeah,
which is when we think the site will get the most traffic.
You all set?
yeah, that was my question.
So you mentioned in there that if we get the dispatch center grant, the money would be returned. Given there's no urgency, in my opinion, for doing this, why don't we wait and see if we get that dispatch grant? I don't think that's very far away, and do this work then.
Well, we don't have any assurity that we'll get the grant. This is work we'll have to do anyway, and some of this work may not be covered under the grant. I'm not familiar enough with that grant to say that for sure, but we did have the fire chief in, and he couldn't tell us for sure that that all of this would be done.
What kind of worries me about the plan is we have this other plan going on, and this is seemingly independent of it. It looks like, I've walked the other trail that already exists before. This other thing just seems like a shortcut right now to Amazon maybe. But given the parking, would we be better off investing in some of these properties we just bought that need trails as opposed to trying to push something into here that
Walter,
isn't quite clear?
This grant, we do not expect to ask for money to instantiate the trails. Pretty much, I'd say 95, 98% of the trails in town have been put in place by volunteers. There's one trail that's up by Gilmore's Pond, that was put in place by a $90,000 grant from the state of Massachusetts. So I don't expect that the town will need to spend money to put walking trails in place on this facility.
And this
Well,
was-
Walter, we're just trying to get the site open so people can actually use that trail. But let me say this, I'm heavily involved in the open space, I'm chair of the open space committee, and I firmly believe that we should have trails on the Daypray property and Bowman Street and Belknap Street. But this site far exceeds them in physical beauty and appeal. I mean, it's it's going to be a showpiece site for the town, and I just can't wait for people.
Why wasn't this brought forward until such a late time? I understand the exact maybe dollars you needed, but it seems like this scheme could have been brought up a month ago, that this is what we're planning to do with this warrant article, and maybe we don't know the dollars yet, but this is the plan. Because one of my frustrations with this article is the lateness of arrival of the information at this time. And I don't think it gives the public or some of the boards enough time to think about it and maybe consider it. I noticed that 3 of your 8 members did not support bringing it at this time. Can you speak to why is that? Why wasn't it a unanimous vote at this committee?
Well, I think it was because you guys were so hard on our chairman last time she was in. They were afraid you guys were going to vote against it.
Yeah, Walter, we were concerned that it was going to be challenging for the committee to do an adequate job of making visible to the key committees in the town what the issues were. But we've been able to overcome that. And the reason we waited was we did not expect the amount of money required to do the engineering to be this large. Okay, the EPA and DEP requirements for any activity there just dramatically inflate the cost beyond anything that, we had some people on the committee who are retired consultants and have done consulting in this space, and we've all been surprised at the magnitude of what it takes to do this kind of work. Those numbers, that's what engineering costs because of the very severe restrictions and the need to employ very highly skilled and very specialized people. And to come forward and try and talk about something without a really good ballpark figure, even a ballpark figure. Today we have a firm quote. It's in the past experience, it's not good to go trying to advertise you to do things until you talk about what it's going to cost.
Yeah, I think if we had come in sooner and said we don't know how much money it's going to be, you would have given us a pretty hard time. So
That's our thing.
Yeah. But to be honest, I think, we were somewhat at the mercy waiting for the numbers to.
It's not a huge sum of money, right? I mean, compared to the kinds of capital expenditures that are typical of being in town. So we think it's reasonable.
To be fair, the issue was we were looking at an article and I didn't know if you were going to bring a $500,000 article, $100,000 article, or a $10,000 article.
We're really trying to do the very bare minimum we can
Right,
to move
but
it forward. And
that was my point about us not knowing.
Yeah.
Because I think a broad overview could have been given. We think it's less than $50,000 probably. We think it's going to, and this is what we're trying to do.
Just another editorial comment. We've had the committee's had extensive discussions about how do we engage the community and get them more familiar with the site so we can get the community to give us more feedback on what they'd like to see. And given that we really can't offer
Can't let
access to
people
the
on
site,
there.
we said, we go to people and say, we want to know what you think about the site, but you can't go there. That was not a useful thing. It just would frustrate people. So this we're getting, we'll get the plans we need, we'll get the approvals, we'll understand what kind of access can be provided. We'll probably need some more capital to execute, but then, come fall or late fall, we'll be able to give access and start having the conversation. Now that you've seen the property, what would you like to see us do with it next?
Well, I appreciate you coming now because now I feel I understand what you're doing, which is good.
I think nobody's more impatient than I am to get this open, right? And the committee has really been very cautious about making sure that we have a clear understanding of what we're asking for before we come and ask you for the money. And I think this is money well spent, and I do not think many people in this town will right. Spending
You
is
know,
right.
in relation to the grant, we need to remember that the grant is not a grant to Westborough. The grant is a grant to a coalition of communities. So deciding how the money will be spent, who will spend it, and how it will be controlled, is not within, it won't be decided until well after the grant is actually authorized. Because you have to get the various groups to agree. They're gonna have to go through their own preliminary design studies. And if it turns out that the grant should have covered this work, I am quite confident that our finance department, in whom I have a great deal of faith, will make sure that we get the funds repatriated to us.
Andrew?
So the dissonance I struggle with most here is the fact that on one hand, we're hearing this is a crown jewel, and you have some nice pictures, but I didn't see crown jewel in it, but that's not the important part. But on the other hand, we also hear it's next to a Superfund site. It is exponentially more expensive than anything you expected. Everybody is hearing much more expenses. And I guess if I step back and look at the town, we have other ponds, and I'm not playing pond competition here, but we have other opportunities potentially. If we're going to invest, we can invest less in something that would be more appealing, or that would be new and different, that isn't just a regular trail in the woods somewhere. So I guess I hear you both talking.
Okay, so let me-
Andrew, are you suggesting we should just leave the site the way it is?
Until we have a better idea of what to do with it, we have a jewel, what do you want to do with it? Doesn't.
You gotta get access to figure out what you gotta get access to the property to really
Yeah,
get a clear understanding of how it may be utilized.
yeah, we can't even get an amount to tell you what the fence will cost unless we get these bid documents. So, it could be an extremely manageable number, or it could be a number that you turn around and say, no way, that's right, but we don't even know until we get these bid documents prepared for us. So that's really what we're asking, is to move that forward so we can get a better handle on what the cost will be to the town, and whether it's a smart decision for us to move forward and come back to the town and ask for money. And let me just address something else.
Yeah.
This site is geographically located. It's walkable from around, it's walkable from the park, it's next to the train station, it's on the B-Walt, if that gets built. So it's on the charm bracelet. I mean, there's a lot of features on this site that make it unique, and not to mention, it's just plain gorgeous. And I can't tell you, it's really, really going to be exciting.
Thank you.
Rod?
Two questions. One is, how much land is there outside the pond on the Amazon portion?
So the Amazon portion.
Where's the boundary?
Let me go back.
We could rent that area.
Yeah, let me go back here to the one with okay. So the property line runs along the water treatment road here, cuts back to the pond edge, and essentially it's on the pond edge. Right, so Amazon owns that entire side, but they are providing us with an easement there's a whole trail system here that AstraZeneca built. Again, I can't encourage people to check that out because we don't have the easement. So, that's another exciting opportunity for the town.
Between Hokomoco Pond and Route 9, that's all, those are individual parcels.
Yep.
But all of those parcels are basically owned by the same developer. Amazon's a tenant. And there must be 60, 70, 75 acres in there. It's a huge expanse. So compared to the pond is 26 acres, including the water. Probably in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 acres of land area.
So what's the next step in getting those easements?
Just finalizing some language between the attorneys. Ron, I just want you to know I have a long-term vision here, and I don't want to necessarily share it because it's my vision.
That was my next question. What's the future?
Yeah, but I do have a long-term vision for how I hope this progresses into an accessible, usable wonderful recreation area for the town. So I'd be happy to share that with you individually, but I'd like to say it's premature to bring that out tonight.
My
If
only.
you push me on it, I will. But we'll be
I'm
here
tempted,
on
I'm tempted, but that's all right. The only other question I had.
30,820.
Or 30,000.
It is based on a single bid. We would certainly look to get more than one quote.
So it's conceivable it could be less than that.
I'd love to say it'd be less than that.
Andrew?
So as you look at the costs associated with this, there's the fence clearly, which is specific to the Superfund site. Where you were talking earlier about how everything seems so much more expensive about this, so let me finish. Is that limited to what we would take care of at some point with that Superfund site? Or when you talk about potential development of all the trails, is that going to be much more expensive? Or it's just the Superfund related fence?
The specific property, that is the 26 acres of property, not even the whole 26 acres, but the site is unique and has a unique set of regulations. The rest of that property is just subject to town bylaws and state wetland laws and things like that. So it really is just the 26 acres.
So any other trails that would come through there? So at
So
some
the
point.
trails will be done by volunteers, and as long as we're not earth moving, we're fine. As long as the trails are done with, cutting down brush, that kind of thing. We can't do stump removal, but I've been on the site. This trail is easily passable all the way down to here, and I've actually been all the way to this fence from both sides, and this will not take much to clear it. This trail, this bonded trail already exists. People already use this to go down the water. You get down to the fence, you have to stop because the fence goes about 8 feet into the water. I'm sure that people go around that fence because on this side, there's already a trail in place. So we're not talking about a lot of physical work to get the trail system. We're talking about possibly coming back for signage, some boulders at the entrances. The fence will be the big cost.
So, well, the fence is very specifically related to the Superfund site. That's area B that we're talking about right there. Once you get beyond the perimeter of that area, it sounds like there's additional potential regulations, but are we also talking about everything that would need to happen would have a higher potential cost? Signage, the same cost all the way around. I guess I'm wondering.
Signage won't be a problem.
Right.
Anything you do that's going to disturb the earth will require approval by the EPA and the DEP.
Yeah, so it's-
Superfund site.
So the only, that's why we're not proposing taking the perimeter fence down, because that would disturb the earth and that would be expensive. So really, anything that would disturb earth moving in any way, that would be more expensive than normal earth moving. But we do have, we have an obligation to secure those landfills.
I have one last question, but I'll let somebody else jump in.
Anybody else?
Outside of, since you guys study this area, you might know, but if we're going to use this as the center for the communication center, wouldn't that imply, I mean, their parking lots and stuff would be earth moving, so they're going to have to deal with that?
Walter, I mean, we can't speak for exactly what they will do, but given my knowledge of these kinds of facilities, that will end up having to be a secure facility. Since it's a dispatch facility, you're dispatching fire and police for 3 or 4, at least 3 towns, that will be a very secure facility because it will require the kind of security that you keep terrorists out and keep miscreant people out. So that facility will be totally secure. You will not be allowed to have public access.
Yeah, but
They will have to have parking for the employees who are there, but I'm sure that the parking will end up having to be gated, and access to the property will be severely restricted.
Yeah, that's what I was just sort of asking, is there a construction cost will probably
Their
be
costs-
higher because they're going to have to deal
Their
with
costs
this
will
as well?
be, I mean, the costs of anything you do on this site will be somewhat higher than would be on a green grass site that's not subject to DEP approval. And I'm sure that the folks who put together the proposal are aware of that, because, it's all, anybody who's done any digging into it is quite aware of the situation.
Yeah, we would assume any of those costs would be borne by the grant that they're applying for.
They want to put up a 300-foot transmission tower. Okay, they got a radio tower.
that means you got to dig.
You think?
A 300-foot radio tower requires a pretty good foundation.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. Les?
So one of the steps the Conservation Commission was taking, have they looked at that for starters? Has the Conservation Commission looked at this yet?
Yes, we have two people from the Conservation Commission, including the chair,
Yep.
on our committee, and they're quite aware of all the issues here. The area that we're talking about working in is not currently subject to the Conservation Commission. The instantiating the trails will just require going to them and just let them know what we're doing.
So one of the steps that they started to take just before the previous director left was to look at any of the public lands and provide an assessment of what sort of ongoing upkeep needs to happen, be it, and this doesn't apply here, bridges, for example, paths, benches, those things need to be upkept and they're not currently accounted for, but they're doing that. So I guess I would ask if anybody from the Conservation Commission has weighed in or done work yet of figuring out what the ongoing support costs of the path structure in here would be.
There's two people from the Conservation Commission on the committee, both of whom are very experienced, and there's at least one, I believe more than one person who's part of the land trust. And we've got the chairperson of the Open Space Committee on the committee. So we've got the folks who have the understanding and the knowledge of what the future maintenance and maintenance requirements will be there. And we've taken,
So-
understand what they are. They're not onerous.
Yeah, Andrew, I walked all of this area, and we're not gonna need a bridge, we're not gonna need, it's all dry land. It's gonna be relatively easy for land trust volunteers, and I'm volunteering them. But, they've been very generous with their hours, and I expect they'll be as excited about this as I am. And I know we've got members on the land trust who already, one of my jobs this week is to try and get land trust to take a vote of support on this, but I've got to find time to get.
I would just observe that in 300 years of this town, we haven't had a plan to make sure we maintain, have a budgeted idea for projecting and supporting and maintaining the public spaces, not here, not just here, but all of them. So the people you've talked about that are knowledgeable and familiar, and there's a new mindset coming, and I want to make sure that we're applying it to this space as much as we would to any other. It's a question I'm now asking of any of our public spaces, because we haven't done this, and I thought it was a really great idea.
I don't disagree with it. I think open space, the rec commission, we can all get together, DPW, the select board, and try and work on a maintenance plan for all of our open space, public spaces, fields. I think that's a valuable addition for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Any questions from our members who are remotely accessing? Okay, hearing none. Thank you. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
Appreciate your time.
Please support Article 16.
Okay. Mr. Caprioli. Okay. Thanks, gents.
Sorry. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Can you see Mark?
Would you please state your name and address?
Yes, John Kerr, sake. Don Caprioli, 9 Cromers Road, Westborough, Mass.
Mr. Caprioli, you can have a maximum of 10 minutes.
Well, if you indulge me, I'll try to do that. I had no idea this was, the previous speaker was going to take that long, and I think neither did you. The reason, what I need to do is to talk about an entry into the budget message of the Town of Westborough budget message. What stimulated my activity here is the meeting, the last town meeting where this the library renovation was discussed, and in that meeting, someone asked something about comparative tax burden for various communities, and the town manager stood up and she had some chat, and she came to the conclusion in some obscure and some subjective way that suggested Westborough's tax burden is somewhere in a less than a burdensome level. Now, I want to read something from the budget message here on page 8. It says, in FY 2019, representatives from the town and school met to identify comparison communities that could be used to measure measure financial and performance indicators. This group was made up of the school superintendent, assistant superintendent, school committee, 5 members, select board representative, and the town manager representative, and the town manager. You can see it's heavily weighted for the school department to call the shots. That's my identity. Communities were chosen based on economic performance, demographics, and/or financial attributes that the team felt were similar to Westborough. Westborough identified the following communities, there's 15 communities.
Mr. Caprioli, 1 second, please. Mark?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I left this here. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
I got 2 minutes from that. So, this is communities is readily available. And what they do is they, in this chart, that you have in your budget page and on your budget message, they have a single family tax bill, fiscal 2023 tax bill, and Westborough is 9 from the top. Well, the communities they selected were ridiculously chosen because they don't represent Westborough in any shape, way, shape, or they're not an accurate representation of Westborough in general, in any way, shape, form, or manner. Secondly, the concept of the single-family tax bill is absurd. When people want to know what their tax burden is, they want to know what the tax rate is. What happens when the tax rate is, what people have in Westborough is they have property wealth. You have so much property wealth. If you have your house worth $500,000, you have $500,000 worth of property wealth. Where you choose to have that property wealth is your personal choice. How much property wealth you have is your personal choice. What you want to know is what's the cost of that property wealth in tax dollars. And that is the tax rate. It's not an average bill by any means in comparison to any other community. Let me give you, just please indulge me, and let me give you something that is actually very in the news today. It's called interest rates. Now, when you have some money, you have some financial wealth, and you have, let's say, $500,000, and you want to know what benefit you can receive from that, and you want to put it in your bank so you can know what benefit you receive. You don't go to the bank and say, what was your average interest payment for last year on your accounts? That makes no sense, because the accounts are all different amounts. What you ask is, what's the interest rate? What are you going to give me per dollar? What are you going to give me per dollar? It's the rate. The same way, the tax rate, and that's an apples-to-apples comparison. I think we all know that. I think we've seen it in dramatic form in the last few days. And the tax rates, comparative tax, the tax rate per community, in each community, is a comparison of the tax burden per property wealth dollar. Anyone who wants to discuss this in detail, I'd be more than happy to. Anyway, so of the 15 communities, they're listed, believe it or not, Westborough is second from the top. It's not in the middle at all. It's second from the top, second highest. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important because I believe your committee, and I used to be on the committee once, has a responsibility, the breadth of your responsibility is to represent the town's fiscal condition in an accurate manner. And there is a breadth to that. And the breadth of that suggests, requires, that you don't let anybody represent you in an inaccurate manner. In other words, you're telling the truth about the town's physical circumstance on an absolutely comparative basis, and no one has a right to misrepresent your truth. That's my point. I hope you will agree. So, and that's why I guess I'm here, because I don't want this misinformation to go out to anybody in any way at town meeting. Now, I realize you want to put this in your budget, in your message, and it's probably because you know it's got a bunch of garbage. Excuse me, it's not accurate, not relevant, and it's not true representation. Now, just to, because I'm not prejudiced in any way, shape, or form, I'm just trying to tell the truth. I took the travel to, and I have a couple of handouts, I don't have as many for everybody, but you can share them. And found Westborough on the state map, and I took a clockwise concentric circle, expanding clockwise concentric circle, to approximate the regional tax rates, right, of communities. And I went to the other paper, and I got 56 communities when I ran out of paper. And in 56 communities, Westborough was, I believe, 8, highest from the top, 7th or 8th, something like that. I think it was 8th. Now, if you do the math, you'll see it's somewhere around 85 percentile, right? Now, just for your own credit, just so I have some credibility here, more than I maybe you're willing to give me in the beginning, I could have stopped at Sterling here and come up with a much higher level of Westborough being much closer to the top, but I didn't. I went to the end of the paper because I don't believe that I should manipulate information in any way, shape, or manner when I ask other people to do the same. So I just want to point that out. So you're free to have these. I also took the information of the entire state of Massachusetts, property tax rates, residential property tax rates, and I listed them from top to bottom. And lo and behold, Westborough somewhere around 85%. 85 percentile. That means 15% above and 84% below, something like that. And that suggests that Westborough is an expensive, tax-wise, Westborough is an expensive community. You know that? I know that. Don't let anybody lie about it. Can we do that? Thank you. That's me.
Thank you, Mr.
Can I
Caprio.
hand these to the...
If you can give them to me, I'll be happy to distribute them.
I don't have so many copies.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions of the gentleman?
You want to...
No? Okay.
Anything you want to know?
Okay.
I guess I was wondering, I understand what the thrust of what you're going for here was this just a discussion of some additional data you'd like to see, or the action that comes out of this?
Okay, the action is, don't let this be presented at town meeting by people that are using this false, inappropriate information to suggest to the residents of the community, our people at town meeting, that Westborough's tax rate is reasonable, like somewhere in the middle. It isn't in the middle. It's close to the top. It's within 15% of the top by most metrics, and even, to be honest with you, by the metrics of the dashboard communities that they selected.
Okay. I think that message could have been conveyed without casting so many aspersions, but that's just my...
Excuse me, Dad.
No, that's
I don't
okay.
want to get confrontational, but
Yeah.
you're the one that used the term. What aspersions did I cast?
I think you made characterizations of people's intent that not everybody would come to the same conclusion for. But that's, again, just my personal perspective.
No, well, I cast no aspersions whatsoever. None whatsoever. I'm simply stating the facts, and I'd like the facts to be adhered to by all. And I think you have the, I believe this committee has responsibility to do that.
Thank you.
You want to say something?
Rod?
Yeah, no, would have presented it a little differently, but I think what you've said has some merit, and I have the same concerns, honestly. So I don't believe the dashboards communities are representative of Westborough, and I think what we see presented at town meeting, when we use these dashboard meetings or ratings, can be misleading. And the one dashboard I don't think we see enough of is when you look at the medium income of our dashboard communities. I believe was there 15 or so? Westborough's third from the bottom. So Westborough's medium income is $112,153. We're comparing ourselves to Lexington at $186,201, Sudbury at $191,310. So I agree that when we use these dashboard communities, I don't know that they're representative of the communities that surround us.
Well, you got to go back to some of the reason is comparative school districts and types of school ratings too. There are all sorts of reasons, not just income that these were picked, but anyway, it was picked by a group.
No.
So the reason it's important to have a group is that you get consistent. We were getting at town meeting groups showing up and comparing to different towns. And so it makes sense to have one. If it makes sense to revisit those, then that might be a recommendation we could make as a committee to revisit what the dashboard towns are, but I do think it makes sense to have them.
No, I agree, and I think we should, as a committee, revisit that. And the only thing I would say is, and believe me, I love our school system. I think they do a great job, and I'm delighted we can compare ourselves to some of these other communities. But when we compare taxes and things like that, I don't necessarily think the same rules apply.
Okay.
There are people that are knowledgeable, that are appropriate in town government that are interested in regenerating or generating a appropriate dashboard communities. That's out there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Caprioli.
Thank you.
Okay. Next order of business is to continue the voting on the remaining articles. One note, on Article 13, the police security cameras, that article is being pulled. Those funds are going to be provided by the Westborough Police Foundation.
To be fair, they're going to just make a motion to
Pass over. Correct. After we finish the voting on the articles, we'll discuss the R&R. We have to get that accomplished tonight. Walter, why don't we start with number 4, since it is a line item by line item vote?
Well, yeah, we can go through them and pull out ones that you want to talk about separately, but
Yeah.
because I would hope we wouldn't take 20, however many, 67 will call vote.
No, we won't.
Since everybody's not here.
Yeah, we won't, thankfully. Okay, so the way we'll do this is we'll go line item by line item. Walter will identify the department. If there is an item to be discussed, we'll stop at that point and discuss it. If not, we'll just move on to the next department.
Is it possible to pull that up on the screen while we're doing it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
You don't have this? I sent these out.
I had it, I left it at home.
Okay,
I'll read along.
okay. Well, you can use your old one.
Yeah.
And
Mostly close.
most of, yeah, they're pretty close. Okay. Walter?
Start away, okay. Town moderator salaries and wages to, sorry, I gotta go by this column here, not last year's. Town moderator salaries and wages, 0, expenses, 0. Board of Selectmen town manager salary and wages elected, None. Zero. Salaries and wages, $546,905. Expenses, $63,050. Finance Committee, salaries and wages, $4,060. Expenses, $1,800. Finance, which counts accounting, TC,
Tax collector.
assessors. Salary and wages, $824,425. Expenses, $69,541. Legal expenses, $132,500. Information technology and communication, salary and wages, $345,392. Expenses, $545,700. Central purchasing, expenses, $88,500. Make sure it starts over. Okay. Town clerk, salary and wages elected, $111,852. Salary and wages, $135,577. Expenses, $7,700. Election and registration, salary and wages elected, $2,000. Salary and wages, $20,600. Expenses, $40,500. Conservation Commission, salary and wages, $0. Expenses, $0. Planning Department, salary and wages, $175,604. Expenses, $5,600. Board of Appeals, salary and wages, $3,538. $2,376 expenses. Economic Development, now included in Community Development Department. So that's all zeros. All right, next. Police Department, salary and wages.
Forgot insurance.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a biggie too. It's not a good one to present. Insurance expenses, $16,133,201. Police,
Okay, I'm sorry, just a confirmation, that is the latest and greatest number. I'm
That's the
sorry.
latest and greatest, yep.
Thank you.
yes, up 1.285 million, 8.7% from previous year. Police Department, salary and wages, $4,141,920. Expenses, $291,475. Fire Department, salary and wages, $5,325,875. Expenses, $417,332. Community Development includes Building Inspector, Conservation Commission, and Economic Development Commission, I guess that is. Salary and wages, $757,003. Expenses, $43,400. Weights and measures, $5,500. Animal control, salary and wages, $81,538. Expenses, $4,700. Assabet Regional Vocational School, expenses, $1,124,454.
We should note that that was a monstrous increase this year. That went up 27.7%.
Now, what part of our assessment is how many students
Yeah.
went, so I guess my question would be is how much of that is increase in participating students versus cost increases?
Yeah, well, don't forget the state mandated a 14%. No, I'm just,
Yeah, but they're not in.
yeah, no, they're not included in there. We just have to be careful.
So
Yeah.
in the past, a
My-
lot of times it's gone up a lot, it's because we've added students.
Students, yep. We can find out how much,
Yeah. Sometimes they've come and presented, I think they're presenting at the select board tonight, but
Yeah,
we're,
well,
we're here, so we
we're-
didn't see it.
we're, yeah.
Okay. Department of Public Works and Buildings and Grounds, salary and wages, $2,226,687. DPW expenses, $1,244,640. DPW snow and ice salary and wages, $189,636. Expenses, $484,000. Okay. Electricity, $446,025.
I'd like to question that one.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I know we're in the midst of negotiating the next increase, and it'd be nice to understand where we stand with that.
Well, they're going to have to make a decision soon. The last conversation I had, I had about this was on Friday with the finance director. They are trying to time it so we get the lowest possible rate. And right now, they are budgeting at I think they're budgeting at 12 cents per kilowatt hour. But that's more than likely to go up.
Yes, as I look through here, depending on where you look, some places we have 32%, some places we have 30, some places we have 29. It's not necessarily consistent.
Yeah.
I don't know if that matters, but
I
Well,
heard on the radio tonight that the electric rates are actually going down, and from, was it National Grid or one of those people?
Yeah, but not compared to what our rates were.
No, not compared to our rates, but
Yeah.
it means that by waiting, they did the right thing.
Oh,
because
absolutely,
if
yeah.
They signed in 6 months
But it's still
ago, it
gonna
would
be
have
a
been
big,
much
big
higher.
increase, yeah.
Yeah. so I think they're managing it appropriately. Walter?
Okay, I'll move on. Sanitary landfill, gotta get in the right column again. $918,100 expenses. Also up 26%. Health Department, salary and wages, $310,073. Expenses, $16,522.
That went up 54%. It's not a big number, it's just a big percentage increase.
The expense part,
Yeah,
at $6,000 or $5,000.
Yeah.
Council on Aging, salary and wages, $384,022. Expenses, $29,125. Youth Commission, salary and wages, $237,449. Expenses, $23,630.
and that was up 126%. I'll see what's going on there.
Maybe in our book as
I think it
well.
is.
Yeah, it is.
Discussion. I mean, it's $13,000, it's not.
Yeah.
Veteran Services expenses, $111,216. Trustees of Soldiers Memorial expenses, $2,800. Library salary and wages, $965,838.
I have a question on that.
Okay,
So in the book previously, it was 929,000, which was a 2.7% increase. And then what changed? I know there was some adjustments based on the union scale that we adjusted other salaries, but I don't know what percentage that is, but it's probably like 6%.
You can see the department requested the other amount, so I don't know if these are, you're right.
these could be, well, let's not guess.
Yeah.
I'll ask. Okay, Walter. Any other questions? Rod?
I have a question on the next one if you want.
Okay. Recreation?
No, expenses.
Expenses.
Library
so-
expenses, $307,254.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the fact that that went down, but realizing there's repairs that need to be made in the library before the next project, I would level fund that from the previous year and actually increase it by $8,375. That would be right recommendation, but I don't know if we get to do that.
No, we don't get to do that on this.
Okay.
We do, actually, if we
What?
choose to vote as a group.
Oh, to recommend the increase, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're
you can make a
absolutely right.
motion,
Yeah,
And if you get a second, you can vote on it.
So we, for everything we don't disagree on, we will agree as a group, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back line by line, and then you can make a motion to make a difference. We vote on that, and figure out where to go from there.
feel that works.
I apologize, I'm back, and I feel like I'm in the middle of a conversation that I can't understand.
Okay, Rod, you got to speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Beth, and the audience. So on the library expenses, last year the approved budget was $315,629. This year they asked for $307,254, which would save the town $8,375. I'm suggesting that, we all know that there's repairs that we don't all know. I'm suggesting that there's repairs that need to be made in the library, and I don't see that we should cut their expenses for this year, so they might be able to repair a little more.
But if you just put money into the budget without designating it for the repairs, that doesn't make any sense to me. We don't give people money that they don't ask for in general.
Well, I think what my rebuttal to that would be that we want to see our properties maintained properly, and if we don't think.
I agree with you, but don't they have to put, tell us what they're doing? I mean, is there a line item to put the money into?
Sure.
As a point of order, are we just going to go through this? This
Yeah.
sounds like a
Yes,
discussion
yeah,
we had when
yeah.
we challenge this line later.
Yeah.
Great discussion.
Yes.
I think we're good.
No, no,
Okay, you're correct, Andrew. We'll come back to this one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Caprioli.
No, I just wanted to help out, the library's already,
Okay,
the
we
library's
don't-
budgeting.
Well, yeah, we appreciate your help, but thank you.
If
Yeah.
I can straighten a board member,
Well, that's okay.
You can tell me later.
You can tell him offline. Thank you very much.
try to save
I-
you trouble.
All right, Walter, please continue. We'll come back to the library.
Recreation, salary and wages, $220,196. Cultural Council, expenses, $4,500. Historical Commission, salary and wages, $14,017. Expenses, $6,700. Debt, expenses, $13,789,136. Country Club Enterprise Fund, salary and wages, well, not fund, sorry, Country Club Enterprise. Salary and wages, $157,263. Expenses, $577,286. Sewer Enterprise, salary and wages, $942,917. Expenses, $570,119. Debt, $541,648. Wastewater treatment plant, salary and wages, $32,652. Expenses, $5,917,750. Water enterprise, salary and wages, $757,333. Expenses, $2,278,560. Debt, $1,266,924. I don't know what trust funds apply.
Never heard that line. Never heard of that line before.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it's a negative.
I don't know we vote for that anyway.
It doesn't get voted on, it's just an account of that.
Thank you, John.
It's just added in. Okay. All right. Oh, we don't need government general. School department, $63,539,476. And Assabet was already read.
So,
Question?
Yes, Mr. Savoy, as soon as we're finished with the
so, can I just ask, so on the school board, we don't vote on any sort of breakdown in terms of wages?
no, we just get the one number.
So I have a question then.
Okay, hang on, we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, Walter?
I think that's it.
Yep, that is it. You skip general government?
General government's just the total.
Yep.
Just a subtotal.
Yep,
We don't vote on that.
Yep. Okay, so we have a couple to come back to. We have, as far as Assabet is concerned, I will get an answer tomorrow, but I don't think that should hold us from voting on this. That's, if our students are there, and that's what the cost is, then that's what it is. Youth Commission, I don't see any reason to hold up on that either, but I am concerned about libraries, the library discussion and schools. Did I miss anything?
There was a question on electricity, unless that's resolved.
I think we resolved that.
What was the resolution?
The resolution was that they are managing it so that we can get the lowest possible rate. So they didn't, they started the conversation with the electric company 6 months ago, did not sign on, and they're going to have to make a decision very quickly. They budgeted, I believe from my last conversation a week ago, that they budgeted at 12 cents per kilowatt hour. And there's a possibility that that will go higher.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back, circle back to library, please. Rod?
Well, I don't know how to answer the salaries and wages because I don't understand.
No, the expenses.
Oh, the expenses. I would make a motion that we level fund the library from last year in order to make any necessary repairs that may come up during the year.
Okay, so the motion is level,
Run repairs?
hang on a minute, Beth. The motion is to level fund the library to last year's amount within expenses, so that those additional funds can be used for any repairs that may present themselves. Is that fair estimation? Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion, so we'll vote on it.
Okay, any more discussion on it? Yeah.
I got it.
Well, it doesn't go there. Well, you can do it if you want. Library, level fund.
Beth?
That's what discussion, I'm sorry.
Beth, you had a question?
Well, I don't have the library's budget, I have budget book in front of me, I'm on the library, that would be a great page. I'm just looking through, and the expenses under the library's budget are things like advertising, travel, fuel and oil, dues and memberships, materials and equipment, clothing allowances, like, there isn't a repairs line. I mean, I'm just concerned that you're not finding the right place and you don't really have the right, I mean, I understand what you're saying, like, okay, it's a little bit of money, let them take care of minor things that need fixing, but this isn't the way to go about it. So I'm gonna vote against this, not
Okay.
because I don't support the libraries, but because this is not the way to fund this.
So,
Okay,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Rod.
So I'm looking at library expenses, building and grounds maintenance, HVAC.
yeah, okay, that, I agree with you that that's the
Repair.
line that has $13,000 in it.
So I have an interest in the library. I listen to a lot of their meetings. They have some, what have been described as significant HVAC repairs that need to be made. And I don't see anything in here that would take care of it, so I don't think level funding it from what was there before is unreasonable.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm sympathetic with the idea of giving them more to do the work here. I think that they have looked at what they need to do. They've looked at a process for dealing with a myriad different things that they're going to be dealing with, and I think that's their vehicle for where they're going to be addressing things. HVAC, to me, just isn't part of the discussion because that's your tens of thousands of dollars conversation. So that doesn't seem to be something we would address here. So while I'm sympathetic for what the goal is and the slack we're hoping to give them, I'm also appreciative of any group that's going to say, we can roll back money. And the finance person in me is like, hey, let's roll money.
Well, you know, in truth, we gave them a lot of money over the last few years, which they gave back. We gave it to them for repairs, and they gave it back at the end of each fiscal year, anticipating the library would be, you know, reconstructed essentially, okay? So I'm glad they're giving up some expense, let's call it that. But at the same time, they have a history of doing that.
Okay.
And-
I see people who are clear-eyed about what they need to get to what they're going. They didn't end up being able to use the process through the expansion for the library, but they have plans for doing this. And I guess those clear-eyed folks doing their budgeting looked at this and said, look, we can actually give back $8,000 this upcoming year. And I'm happy to respect that because of my inclination to go for a lower amount there rather than, you know, playing charitable where they didn't ask for it. So, just my position, just.
Okay, that's fine. Rod?
I'll just make one last comment because I don't think we need to go on. But I think just as a general statement, taking the library out of the picture, we need to maintain our buildings so we don't end up spending more in the long run for things that could have cost less because we didn't maintain them. That's my fear.
I agree with you, but we need to have the people who are supposed to be doing it come to us with a plan so that things get budgeted correctly. I mean, so that like the work gets done. I agree with you. Building maintenance has not been a strong point of Westborough town. But we need to get a plan in place so that it happens efficiently in a manner that takes care of all the buildings.
I think they're working toward that, Beth.
Right, and that's why this money doesn't
Yeah,
make sense to me.
okay.
You know, I thought they came back and said, hey, we found a small project we can do for under 10,000, can we tap the AFC reserve? Then give them 8,000 now. Because I'd like them to go through the channel to pay their spending.
Also, as you pointed out, the library budget's actually split into, 15 accounts. And so adding more would have to be added to one of those specifically, but we don't do that. We vote a total. And so it makes more sense coming from the ground up to me. We'll note in fiscal 22, $289,000 was spent below the budget, so they might have felt they could have lived with a little less or something.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? By the way, John, Zephyr, and Beth, we don't have a visual on you in here, so you're...
Behind it.
Well,
We can't see
great,
it.
we can't see it in front of us, we have to keep turning around. But my point is, don't use your computers to raise your hand, speak up if you have a question to ask.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, are we done with discussion on this? Can we take a vote?
And this is to amend it?
This is to amend the budget for the library to bring it back to fiscal year '23 levels for expenses.
Lundberg, no.
Bradley, no?
Dolan, no.
Less than now.
McMahon, no.
Shafford, yes.
Already no.
We've got a Z.
Those are-
Oh, sorry, Zephyr. You know, if it's not right in front of me, I don't see it. I apologize.
710,
170.
17.
Okay. The vote was 170. Okay, the next item is,
As proposed?
pardon me?
So
Beth?
now we're going to put, is the budget as proposed down with the other blanket items?
Did you?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
Okay, Rod, you had questions about the school budget?
Could I just back up, again, staying on the library, do we understand why the salary increased from our original budget?
We do not have an answer for that. I can get it, but again, I don't see any reason to, it's in the big scheme of things, not gonna,
Okay.
okay.
I suspect it's either
The-
from new hire or, a replacement hire, be
What about-
more, or from the.
Union contracts,
Union
union contracts, yeah.
If maybe they're in one of the unions that was.
Yeah.
settled.
Just for context on the voting on this is our last chance to vote before we have to have the R&R budget in, right?
Right.
Yes,
So the implications on not voting on something would be, we would have to put something in the book that says we are going to wait and vote on this all the time.
announce it at the,
So I don't mean that to change your opinion,
no,
only to
it's
say that that there is no get another answer and we'll talk about it later.
no, it's correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's more informational than anything else. I mean, when you look at the youth commission increase, it's a substantial increase, but the total dollar amount in the overall scheme of the budget is small. Okay? Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. All right, school department.
So,
Go in there.
you know, the area that I believe I have the best understanding relates to buildings and grounds and that sort of thing. So I spent a little time looking at the increase from 23 to 24 for the buildings and grounds portion, and it went up 29%. So I thought it was worth looking a little further. What I came to realize was that in '23, the budget was decreased significantly. I looked at the 4 previous years, and the average of the 4 previous years was $2,607,000. In 2023, we reduced that to $1,966,000. And now we're increasing it to $2,539,000. So without trying to fully understand the logic, I'm just curious to understand how the '23 budget is working out, and if anybody knows why that might have changed so significantly.
They did talk about that at the budget meeting.
Yes.
Had to do with increases in other areas of the budget where they felt they could defer some.
And I think some of it was COVID cut.
Yeah,
Cost
COVID
cut,
cut.
so money they saved from having reduced B&G expenses during COVID.
And they didn't put them back in '23,
Yeah.
and because there were some other expenses that were hitting in '23.
So I
They
don't know
covered
if
it pretty
that's that
extensively.
specific element, but I do remember that there was a
Yeah, that was
significant
one.
savings we recognized
Last year,
from the school.
in '23.
I believe it hit in '23 because of the order of when we got the funding approved and when it hit and stuff like that.
Okay, all right. So again, I think that probably explains the increase. The only specific comment I would like to make is that on the fails electrical line item, we're budgeting $68,000, which is a 29% increase, and fails by its very nature should be net zero. So I would hope that that number would be zero. Maybe I'm oversimplifying things.
This is your wheelhouse, Andrew.
Closer to my wheelhouse. Again, I can't speak to why that is, because the net zero means that in the end, we're going to end up saving, and in fact, the school is already passing electricity to the rest of the town, and they just got approval, I think today, Stephen, correct, got approval today to make sure that it's listed appropriately on the bill as to how that's happening. There are times that the town needs to rely on the school needs to rely on electricity. Long stretches in winter when it's colder and less lights, stuff like that. but on balance, the money that is passed in through electricity doesn't appear on the electricity line, I believe. So that's why you're not gonna see a perfect balance or even a negative number. But the credit for that money ends up going back, and the town does end up saving on it.
I think the town can use the credits to pay for their electric bills.
Correct, but it wouldn't show up on the school's electric budget. as an
So
interesting-
Fails doesn't get credit for it, is what we're saying.
Also, wasn't there an issue that they had to buy very expensive, different system of backup generators or something because they were solar?
No.
Not that I'm aware of. You, anybody?
I mean,
No, they don't need backup generators, they're plugged into the
Grid.
world.
I just remember that something happened that they had to buy one piece that was way more expensive than they claimed to satisfy National Grid. But I don't know what it is. Sorry.
I think it'd be a great question at the beginning of the budget cycle next year to ask, when we do this thing in January, and we have these books by that point, that would be, because then they could dig in. And they should know more by then, that it should be stable. Excellent question.
Okay. Does that answer you? Okay. All right. We, I think, are ready. Who's got a question? Oh, yeah, Mr. Savoy. I'm sorry. What is this with respect to?
School department.
Okay, please.
Wilfred Savoy, 41 Chestnut Street. I had a question on the budget dealt with student services. It's page 56 in their budget. And basically, every one of the line items is up by 15%, 14%. Now, I understand that they received a letter, and I was at the meeting when they spoke about this, from the State Operational Service Division, which is a state organization, state division, which provides inflationary figures on tuition rates, private tuition rates, and they came up with 14%. So why did the school department increase virtually every one of their line items for student services by 14%. Those things include travel and physician costs and consulting costs.
They're all affiliated with that
Rental
same
costs.
hazard.
Hang on a minute, Beth. Beth, hang on a minute, please.
So these line items that are in the student services are things beyond tuition. Now, I understand tuition is comprised of a lot of different things, which that division did provide to all superintendents. To just a blanket 14% to me, it indicates that there's got to be some other reason here, or it's an easy way to get 14%. I don't know.
No, there's a very specific reason. Beth?
Yeah, so there were a whole lot of things, not just, that are listed under that student services that are tax, I don't know the right word to, that when that 14% was granted by the state to these various organizations that the school pays for, anything that was under that, they put the 14% automatically because they have it under control. So, it's something, I don't have page 57.
I have a copy of the letter.
55 to 58.
Yeah.
But,
Beth, hang on a minute. We're having trouble hearing you.
Yeah.
okay, do you want to explain it then?
No, go ahead, but just slow down because the communications are not that clear.
So when this 14%, I'm going to say, was gifted to us from the state, the school district, the school department gave everything that was under that domain of that ruling a 14% increase, because they don't really have a choice. And so some of these things you see that don't seem to be connected, they're connected to that 14% increase.
This was
They didn't
discussed.
give it to things that weren't covered.
Well,
It was discussed at the budget summit, and there was a discussion about, and she actually had a slide, you can go back and look, of looking at if we just put 14% on the out-of-district tuitions, or do we put 14% on the rest of this other portion of it?
Yep.
The feeling at the time, I believe, was that with increases going to the private tuitions, costs for things, other things, paraprofessionals, other stuff like that, transportation, it's all likely to go up some amount, and I believe they put that there for that purpose. But this is, again, we only vote a total number.
Right.
We don't tell the school department how to run the schools.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying that the law does allow to recommend a friendly change in the budget by line item. So we have,
Not by line item, is just for us
No.
schools.
I'm just saying,
That's
the
the only
law
thing we do.
allows the appropriating authority to make friendly amendments to the budget.
To the total.
That is chapter 71, section 34.
Okay.
So
I
you do a
understand.
friendly recommendation. All right? All I'm saying here, getting back to my original point, that I have a copy of the letter that was sent from the Operational Services Division to the superintendents. And it talks specifically about tuition, private tuition. It does give a breakdown on the second page of the individual line items, but there's nowhere in this that says it is mandatory. These are recommendations by the state. It is not mandatory. So my question is, for this body and for the appropriate body, the town meeting, why is every line item in the student services account up by 14%? It amounts to about $100,000 roughly, if you add up all these individual amounts. But it's offset by an increase in the circuit breaker money. So when you look at that student services cost center, oh, they're down. But really, there's a $100,000 increase. And then there's additional circuit breaker aid that counteracts that. So that's my question. And I believe that, it's a legitimate question.
Andrew?
Okay, Mr. Savoy, did you ask the school council this question? I think and I asked that because they're much closer to the details of the budget.
Well, yeah, I've attended several of their meetings. When the meeting that presented the budget, I did not have all this detail.
Okay.
It was not online. That came after they approved their budget. So you have nothing, unless you go in, they have to have a copy of the budget available for 48 hours prior to that meeting. But you have to go in and get it. It's not online and so forth. If you don't have that in front of you, you can't ask those questions.
No, of course not. I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if you had a chance to ask them. But
Yeah.
thank you.
My intent is to ask them the question.
Okay.
But this body is the financial body that recommends. Yes, no.
We have met with them. They explained a lot of this to us. There is, in the past, extra money that was held in special education. Actually, I think it was $200,000 as a fund for unexpected out-of-district tuitions.
Yes.
So all this is part of their calculation of how to the bare bones did you want to cut that, and not have to come back to town meeting in the fall and say we had 7 more kids and we need more money. So it seemed like a fair amount to me at the time they presented it to us. So I have no interest in telling them to change that at this moment.
All right, we're going to end the discussion at that point. Yes, what?
I just wanted, I had the same question as Mr. Savoy, and I agree with Mr. Savoy in terms of we shouldn't have blanket things, and I think the same thing applies to the IT budget as well.
Thank you. Andrew, anything?
No, I'm just pointing
Okay.
to him.
All right, thanks. I'm sorry, so we have to stop discussion on this now. Well,
You already talked.
you already had,
That was a different topic.
no, it's okay.
I have something to offer on this topic.
All right, Mr. Caprioli, make your comments and,
No, it's not a comment, it's more than a comment. I believe the 14, I reviewed the school department budget, I believe the 14% is projected for next year, and it represents a significant amount. I want to clarify something that's been said here about amending the school department budget. You don't have to be friendly, you can be as unfriendly as you want, and you can make any amendment to the school department budget you like.
To
You
the
know how I
total.
know that's correct? Because I've done it.
To the total.
Say it again?
To the
Only
total.
I can't hear you.
only to the total.
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
that was my point. We
Yeah.
can't say take it out of this spot.
No, to the total, that's it.
Correct.
And the school department will figure out how
Yes,
to make it work.
exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Caprioli. All right, have we covered Article 4? We're done with that?
No, we haven't
No, we
voted.
voted.
Well, that's what I mean. Did we get to that
We
point?
haven't-
Did we get to the point where we can vote?
I think we can
Yes.
vote.
We're getting
There's no
close.
other
All right.
people that want to say
So-
they have a question on this.
So will you make a motion, please, Walter?
So my understanding is all the numbers are as presented, so. I'm not going to read them all again, but I move we approve Article 4, the budget as was read.
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay, let's go to a vote. Beth?
Humphrey, yes.
Oh, hold on, we got a second.
Yep.
Never mind. Okay, go
Bloomberg
ahead.
is yes.
Okay. Yep.
Bradley, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
Moretti, yes.
Jumped in again.
I keep jumping you, Zaffer, it's not intentional, sorry. When, we're so used to,
Can I just make a point?
we're not used to having you here that often sometimes, so.
So this
Yeah.
in the warrant booklet will be written next to each line, so I just wanted to check if Rod wanted to vote, specifically on a couple of them versus all of them, we could take those votes separately. So in other words, if you wanted to say no
Pull out the ones you
on the
want to vote
school
no on.
budget and two others, I don't know which ones you want to do.
Okay.
If it's 30 of them, then maybe it's better to say all of them, but if that was your only objection, when it's in the book, it's actually next to each
Okay,
Yeah.
one that says AFC voted,
okay.
and so normally, if we say yes to all, they all just say,
Okay, which ones are we talking, which
I
ones do you
don't
have?
know. It's up to him, I
Oh.
wanted to I thought it'd be fair to give
Go
him
ahead,
that
Bob.
option.
He can make a motion to which ones he
Yes,
wants to vote
he
on
can.
separately,
Yeah,
which is what
he
this
can.
is.
So I'll make a motion to take separately the library and the schools.
Both lines for the library and the school.
And what do you,
Well, the school line is one library.
It's one
Okay.
line.
But
He's
you're
just-
talking about
He's just voted.
Salary.
all right, hold on. Which lines are you talking?
The school labor and expenses,
Okay,
the library
Yeah.
labor and expenses, and the
Okay.
school is a single line item.
the single line item. Okay,
Okay.
make a motion on the library salaries, please.
But we could still have the same motion, it's just that Rod can vote
He
no
just
on
is
the.
voting no.
Correct,
So-
he's voted.
I will amend,
Hold it, Beth.
I can amend my motion for the past one to all but those three, and we can vote that one, and then we can, if you'd like, or we can do the library ones first, and then vote the rest. So
Okay,
there'll be basically 3 votes, because I think we can, do you want to do the library in one swoop?
let's do the library in one swoop.
All right, so I move we approve the library, let me just find that one. Do I know where it is? Probably worth.
Do you have it?
No, haven't found the library yet. I circled it, so it should be here somewhere.
Circle the wagons.
Probably on this one.
So it's that number.
Okay. So I move AFC recommends vote in favor of library budget of $929,086 salary and $307,254 expenses.
Second.
929 was not the town manager's recommended.
Sorry, I'm in the wrong column. Sorry, here you go. $965,838 and $307,254. We were in the department.
So this is the as-written amount?
It's
As written.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just
Okay.
put another line here for library. Okay.
All right, ready?
And you second?
I did.
And there's a second. Any more discussion? Okay, we'll move to a vote. Beth?
Lambert, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shepherd, no.
Siddiqui, yes.
Moretti, yes.
All right, so that's 710. Okay, I move, and from the school, the AFC recommends the town vote for a Westborough school budget of $63,539,476.
Second.
Any more discussion? Let's move to a vote. Beth?
Lambert, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shepherd, no.
Siddiqui, yes.
Moretti, yes.
710. Okay.
Okay.
I would like to move that the AFC recommends the town vote in support of all the other budgets except for the two we just voted in favor, as read earlier.
Second.
Any discussion?
Lambert,
Okay, let's go to a vote. Beth?
Lambert, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shepherd, yes.
Okay.
Siddiqui, yes.
Moretti, yes.
So that now becomes 800. Okay, now we're done with number 4.
Okay, let's move on to the next one, please.
The next one I have we're still skipping 10 N O and P.
Yes.
16 Hookamanco Pond access. I will make a motion to throw it into play. I have some thoughts of waiting on this one, but I move AFC recommends the Hookamanco Pond access votes in favor.
Article
of
16.
Article 16. And
Here you go.
we could read the number.
$30,820.
$30,820, and it's written in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll start. I'm torn, because I think it's the right thing. I just feel like I'd like to think about it a little bit. This is kind of like,
You want
we brought up some good issues, but I think in the end, the idea of securing that area and starting to look at it and getting some stuff makes sense.
Well, it does, but we've got to spend $30,820 to find out how much more we can spend
Yeah.
to bring it up to acceptable levels for the public.
I mean, I would like to have had more discussion on the vision and where we're going, I think. I don't know.
I for one
I'm
feel
interested
like,
in others' opinions.
just building on that, I would love to know why this one is so much more worth the effort, the extra expense, next to a Superfund side of all things, with the attendant issues that will come with all the additional paperwork. I'm struggling at the moment to see why this is worth that extra effort.
I mean, I kind of, I'm sorry, I'm out of order, aren't I?
No, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
agree with both of you, but there's also a part of me that says, you know, when I moved into this town 20 some odd years ago, that was like, oh, that's the Superfund site. It would be nice if in 5 or 10 years, it was, oh, that's a nice part of the charm bracelet.
On this side
And,
of the fence.
but I mean, it's a big, huge pond, and, that now just represents a Superfund site to me, and everybody who drives by, and the fence that's keep out. The $30,000 is gonna have to be spent at some point, anytime you're gonna do anything with it. It is a lot of money, but, it's the money that you have to spend to plan to do anything with it. That's a thing, whether that's this year, next year, or in 5 years. So.
Rod?
So my comments are, I've actually been on the Otis, or the Amazon side when it was the previous owner, and I think there's great potential for the pond beyond just the pond itself, particularly if we open up all those other things. So I think it's a very worthwhile effort. The only thing I would strongly recommend is that they get 3 quotes for the engineering, and, hopefully it shouldn't cost any more if we have that number.
Okay.
So there was a discussion at the end that I don't understand enough, so I thought I'd ask, but other people seem to know about it. So are they talking about developing something else on that site that will require disturbing the earth and all of the other work, that super secure location? Because if they're going to be doing all that eventually, wouldn't that be the right time to start pulling up the hood and seeing what's going to happen in that area?
That's not the question I asked, but the dispatch center may go into that metal building that's right on Smith Valley Parkway there.
That's the one in the corner?
The one in the corner, yeah.
Otis
May.
Street, sorry, it's on Otis Street. And if it did that, that would be, well, first of all, most of it, I guess, will get funded elsewise through grant, but that was sort of my question are we coming up with this scheme before we know what's going to be, the other part? But it seems like maybe that part is sort of isolated from their plans at the moment anyway, because they're just putting in one trail out the back. So, I don't know. Yeah, but that's what's being talked about at that site, is that regional dispatch center.
So you're ambivalent, it seems.
Not ambivalent,
Yeah.
I'm torn.
You're-
Because there's a difference. I can't. I kind of think it's the right thing to do. I just said I feel, like I said before, rushed by this thing because it wasn't kicked around.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's not $6 billion either.
No. Any other conversation, any other discussion? Beth? Z?
I don't like, I still have my discomfort level with, your Superfund site, and I'm not sure I'm ready to open it to the town, but they're saying, okay, it's been declared safe, but only for limited uses, and then it's like, but don't disturb the land, and we want to figure out what else we can do with it, and I feel like it's still in a fuzzy planning stage.
Okay.
And I also feel they're saying it's beautiful, and I have to be honest, the drone shot was wonderful, and I'm wondering if it looks beautiful because we've left it undisturbed for 30, 40 years now, and maybe if we did that in other places, they would look beautiful too.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, are we ready to move to a vote? You're all set? Okay, Beth?
Lumberg abstained.
Okay.
Bradley, yes.
Dolan, yes.
I think I'm going to go yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Moretti, yes. Damn.
Gotcha.
I did it again. I'm sorry, Zephyr.
So I have 701.
Okay. All right.
Next, there was number 25, which someone had queries on
Sewer
sewer
system.
system improvements.
No?
We waited last time. I think Rod had a question.
Yeah, there was a question about the deliverable for this year and why the urgency, since we've got,
Well, he wanted it made, could we do more sooner?
yeah,
Was I think the whole.
sorry, yes,
gist of it.
we have multifamily dwellings
Right.
waiting to be constructed, or, sorry, we have the need for some multifamily dwellings,
Yep.
which is being held up by sewer system limitations. Don't know the answer to that one. But
We don't have more information than we did.
we don't have any more information than we had before. So,
You want to try and get information from Chris, and we'll vote
we can vote for this
next week
next,
and just not tell our vote at the meeting?
correct.
If that makes sense, we can do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Okay. We will do that. Article 25.
So you want me to follow? I'll follow, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be good. Article 29, proposed bylaw.
Next up is the water restriction.
Yep.
Mike, you had questions?
Yeah, I did some research on this, and in the interest of your time this evening, I'll just go to the bottom line. The reason this bylaw was proposed is because that since 1996, Westborough has been guided by three documents: a 1996 water use policy, 1996 bylaw on water use, a 1998 water conservation policy by the then Board of Selectmen, and a 2010 Department of Environmental Protection permit, part of which suggests how water restrictions might be put in place. Town management, in conjunction with a review by the town council, noted there was many inconsistencies between these documents, and the new bylaw, the town council recommended we scrap the existing bylaw because of these inconsistencies and rewrite a new bylaw, and that new bylaw attempts to reconcile all of the issues that were previously contained in those other documents. There is one significant change, as Chris Pant advised us, and that is that it now includes private wells, which include both irrigation wells and human consumption wells. So the bylaw authorizes the town to restrict private wells, including but not limited to wells intended solely for irrigation purposes. Some amendments in the language might be suggested, but I had a conversation with the town manager and DPW director, and what I've determined, at least in my own mind, is that what's being proposed is an equitable approach to the town's concerns, and it will apply across the board to both irrigation wells and private irrigation wells and human consumption wells. The compliance to the bylaw falls primarily on the DPW. I'm fine with that. I'm not comfortable with the fact that the police have a role in compliance, but, I can live with it. I don't think they should be tasked with this duty, but it is in the existing bylaw, and so was brought into this new one. Without going into too much detail, there are 5 levels of drought, and or 5 levels of oversight. And if we ever get to the 5th level, which is a water supply emergency, that pretty much shuts down all non-essential use of water. In the meantime, the activities that are ongoing and indicated in the new bylaw are permitted. So I'm in favor of this article, even though, full disclosure, I am a private well owner. You know, my approach has always been, if the town's water resources are under stress, that I'm thinking that mine will be too, so I cut back on my water usage. And I think that there's I won't say implication, but I guess, yeah, I will, an implication that private well users would be judicious about their use during periods of stress.
May I confirm, and if you said this, I apologize, I didn't pick it up. Private well, in this case, one of the things we're looking at is, does that apply to just drinking wells, or does it apply to irrigation drip wells?
Across the board.
It's across the board, okay, thank you.
And to be clear, it's not an implication that they would restrict their water use as the rest of the town does. It's a mandate.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be when, under certain conditions. Yes, but under, in other words, if we're in a drought advisory, okay, and we know that the town supplies are stressed, we're all drinking from the same aquifer, so to speak, that as a private well owner, I would also restrict my use.
Right.
Because all those aquifers are connected.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of this bylaw.
Ready for a motion?
Yes, please.
I move the AFC recommends the town meeting approves Article 29 as written in warrant.
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay, let's move to a vote. Beth?
Lambert, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, no.
Yes.
Moretti, yes.
That is a 7-1. And the zonings we can't do till they come and visit us. Mark will be back. Probably. So I think,
do it today.
I think that's it. We're voting.
Are we done? We've gotten all
It's
that we're supposed to?
The last three are
No,
the
the-
voting articles which we
and-
want to hear
And the schools, which we want to hear.
in this case.
Um,
There are, I believe, in total, 7 articles that we will wait to give our recommendation at
Right.
town meeting. 3 from zoning, 1 from the sewer improvement, Article 25,
mhm.
and the 3 school capital articles.
Well, 2, they're gonna, we
We
have,
may never give our recommendation
No,
to agree
yeah.
that they pass over.
right,
Yes, or something.
that's true. Okay, we can
Anyway,
slice it that way.
yeah.
Yeah, we did get word today that the schools are going to pull the article on the Hastings roof.
No.
Oh, sorry, the ADA.
HVAC and
Yeah, HVAC, ADA. Yep. Okay,
Back in fall town meeting, sounded like from the school.
yeah, that's what it sounded like. All right, moving on. Next order of business is to discuss the draft R&R.
Yeah.
I sent you a new draft over, I think I sent it on Tuesday or Wednesday, yesterday morning. Sorry. Hope you've had an opportunity to review it again. So let's open the floor to discussion. Gene?
There were just a couple of things that I didn't get to in the last meeting. Under the review process and findings, that first sentence, I think is off.
In our role as your advisory finance committee is a responsibility to act on your behalf, and in doing so, maintain an affirmative obligation to act with confidence in our recommendations.
I am sorry, I've got a different wording on here.
Oh.
Or no, I read it wrong. All right.
I had to read that
Okay.
sentence twice myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got a little verbose
Is
with
the
that one.
usual word
It's
there.
a responsibility.
Has a responsibility, but
Yes,
In the
in our role is,
1,
if you take out,
2, 3, 4, in the
But
fifth,
technically, it'd be one of our responsibilities. It wouldn't be,
is a.
our role is a responsibility.
within our role,
Yeah.
Yeah, within
yes,
your role.
maybe within.
Is your advisory.
I will modify
Is a
that to
responsibility.
within.
Yeah, that's it. Andrew got it.
Thank you, Ed.
5 extra points.
Whatever.
Within.
Whatever. Siddiq. I did.
and then the fifth paragraph in that section, which starts inflation pressures reflected.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
Down below, you say the first driver is the continued increase in residential property values.
Mhm.
It's the relative increase in residential property values
Relative to
relative to
Commercial.
commercial.
industrial.
Thank
If
you.
it all increased at the same rate, it would have no effect.
Right.
Thank you.
Relative
we're-
increase.
3 basic drivers. Okay, the first driver. The relative increase is what you're suggesting?
Or the increase relative to commercial property values.
Okay.
That's what I do. I'd throw commercial in there, just so everybody
Yep.
knows what is it relative to.
Commercial's the big one more than industrial.
Commercial and industrial.
Commercial,
yeah,
industrial.
Yeah,
So we'll use commercial.
right.
You can say non-residential.
Or you can do commercial slash.
Oh, yeah.
Or non-residential, okay.
There you go.
Dolan made a contribution.
You're the man. Write down the date. Get that in the minutes.
Did it myself, too.
That was it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Top of the next page, dollar sign, 14%. I say it's a little typo.
Okay. Give me the paragraph, please. The remaining 168?
The sixth paragraph, it starts at last year.
Yeah, as last year should be noted, school committee.
It's the very next paragraph.
Oh, it's on the same page we were on, not the next page.
That's how you print it.
I tell you, I went to the
Yeah,
next.
I must have printed it wrong, but,
It's
So
at
much
the
for,
bottom of
so much for your contribution.
yeah, okay, well, we'll knock it back off, I'm back to
Okay,
neutral.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, it's just a little typo, dollar sign in percent sign.
Oh, yeah, I see it, I got it. Thank you,
That's a good catch.
minor. Okay, good, yeah, very good catch.
I wouldn't have seen that.
Somebody-
There's several instances where you have bolded words and the last letter is.
Not bolded. I will review that in detail.
We'll stay up all night. looking
Yeah,
for bolds.
absolutely.
Unbold.
This was just one thought I had on the expenditures where the highlighted schools up 4.1% or 2.5 million. If we add the dollar conversion for the schools, should we do it for the other line items as well? Or is it not really a big deal?
I agree. I think that makes sense.
If you do it for one, do it for all, or all for one.
See, the others, we just have how high it's.
Yeah, just the
how much
increase.
change.
Just the increase.
I think it is good to see 4.1% is what? 2.5 million? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
So it's
not,
money.
it's real money. That's my
More
point.
math.
It is more math. So I'm not sure whether it makes sense to add it to,
I'll just throw it into, just like we have for the schools.
yep, add it
I'll
into
put
the
that
other
in.
four.
Yeah, if each one said or
Yeah.
blop to blop.
Yep. Okay,
And this is my largest contribution. The second to last paragraph, town meeting as a legislative branch of our municipal government.
what page are you on? First page?
Last page.
The very last page,
Sorry.
just above the signature there.
Yep,
In bold, this must always include the estimated cost of borrowing when a borrow. Mine has a apostrophe and a quotation,
Instead of a colon, okay.
whatever
Thank
the
you.
fifth grader. No real content.
One of them is a single quote, the other's a double.
Yeah, that's what I was
Should
trying
be
to convey.
quote within a gap. Okay, thank you for that. Anything else?
Yeah, I just had that one question. I know we changed this to 4.5%, but the number stayed, but was that because the number was already correct for 4.5%? And
It was 3, we went to 4, the 4.5 was caught by
by Lee.
Lee.
Right, I had asked about, but she had already calculated, in other words, the 93.75 stayed the same, and her calculation was at
Yeah.
4.5%. So the
Yes,
calculation
yeah.
is correct.
Yeah, when you cut and paste, sometimes you leave,
Yeah, you just forgot that it
Yeah.
changed to 4.5.
yeah,
Good. Yeah, because I kind of asked, shouldn't it be 4 or 4.5, not 3?
correct.
And it was.
All right.
It just wasn't saying.
Are we,
I could make a motion.
hey, yeah, we do have the written motion. Thank you.
Out of here. Little Rolodex. I move to approve the Advisory Finance Committee booklet as amended and edited at tonight's meeting with the provision that typographic and formatting changes, including verifying the consistent and correct use of amounts which do not impact the substance, can be made by the chairman, the vice chair, and his or her designee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
Is this just for the front section or for the whole book?
No, this is just for
This front
the
section.
R&R.
Yeah,
Our
we don't
report.
really approve the
No,
rest of the book.
I only have, I was contemplating putting in a statement regarding my opposing vote for the stormwater regulations. Is it too late to do that?
that would go in the vote section.
As long as you got it by
Two.
Monday morning latest.
Okay.
and
Oh, okay.
Friday
I'll get it to you
preferred.
You also do it
Friday morning
could do it on the floor, too.
No, but it'll be printed in the book.
It's a minority opinion.
Yeah.
Send it to both of us,
Okay.
okay? Yeah, because you're going to drop it in.
Yes, I can, it's one of the articles, or where is
Yeah.
it in?
Yeah,
Yes, no, I can put it in.
it's the descent on the stormwater.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, ideally tomorrow morning would be good.
Yeah, I'll do it tonight.
Okay. All right, you
We
ready?
can vote, yeah.
Okay, let's go to a vote.
Okay.
Beth?
Lambert, yes.
Bradley, yes?
Dolan, yes?
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes?
Yes.
Moretti, yes. Just seeing if you're awake, Zach.
That delay because of Zoom.
Yeah,
or whatever.
it is. Yeah.
All right, that's 800, the R&R.
Thank you all for your contributions to
Thank you,
this.
Mike, you did a great.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Hey, I don't have to do this anymore.
Congratulations.
I get to sleep a little.
It's a big,
All right, next order of business. Any liaison reports?
Did you went to that meeting,
Andrew?
creation, did anything?
Not much came out of the recreation, no, nothing significant, they reviewed the articles that were presented, and, what was it? But there, not much, nothing came out of that. The school building committee meeting, we're coming close to the end on fails. There's some executive conversations to be had about bridging the last elements of outstanding bills before we know where we're going to land. We're optimistic, we're still going to be under budget, which is a positive, but there's still legal involvement between me and saying that with 100% confidence. So we all really should be, although we're about 400 days past when we were trying to be, when this was originally going to be done, but there's been a lot of factors that have gone into that. But there we go.
Okay. Nobody else? Okay. As far as future draft agendas are concerned, Monday, the planning folks are in, Articles 32, 33, and 34. The vote for this will be announced at the town meeting because we will not get it into the book. And then Thursday, the schools are in for Article 10N, 10O, and 10P.
Is there any logic to having them come in to the earlier meeting since we're no longer waiting for bids on?
They were, when I spoke to them about coming that last week,
Yeah.
they were, I believe they were unable to come in.
I think it's
on
because
the
they
23rd.
wouldn't have seen
They were
it.
waiting for the bid.
But now they're not waiting.
Well, they're still, yeah, they're not waiting, but,
Just an option.
yeah, it is an option.
See if they want to.
Let me,
If they want to.
yeah, I'm going to hear from Amber this weekend. She's going to send that information that we asked for, so we could have it before they come in.
So
I'll
that
give-
would be an
would-
advantage to them coming later if you wanted the information ahead of time, probably.
Yeah,
Possibly.
would be.
I guess the only other issue is I think the planning board stuff's gonna take a while, so they're not going to vote.
Yeah, I think I'd like to leave the schedule the way it is. We have other people who are involved who have
Okay.
made plans around that, so I think I'll leave it the way it is. All right?
I just have one
Yes.
sidebar comment that I don't think relates to anything, but I'm curious about. And that is, as I've looked through the budget books, and maybe I'm incorrect in this assumption, I thought schools and municipalities got billed for water and sewer, but I don't see anywhere in the budgets that reflects any charges. So are they,
It's
does
an
anybody
interesting
know?
question. I have no, I have no idea.
But-
Hank would know, but listen, I tried to recruit him back tonight. He absolutely refused. So,
When I
You
call
can
Chris,
ask
I'll
Chris
ask him that.
Paya.
Yeah, I'll ask him.
yeah, that's a good idea. Ask Chris. You are the liaison.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are the DPW liaison.
I know. Got no-
Perfectly
Other
legitimate
than
question to
myself,
ask.
right?
All right,
Giving myself homework.
okay.
That would, yeah, make some sense, I guess, because of,
Well, you could break it out a
well,
little
it's
more
going
detail.
into this other fund, right, because water and sewer are separate.
Yeah. They will do, are they getting a charge for stormwater?
That's what limited to.
They
Yeah.
weren't getting stormwater.
They're not gonna get a, they're
Yeah,
gonna get a rate, but not a
they get,
charge.
right.
Oh, no, they were gonna get a charge.
Well, we'll end up,
No, not the town building.
no,
just
the
state
town
building.
buildings we'll end up paying for them as well. Because that cost will get rolled into the town budget.
Oh, yeah, but it's gonna be.
Well, then the tax-
town- the
then-
town-
Chris's presentation said excluded
Yeah,
the town properties, but not like the state.
no, the state pays.
The state.
Yeah, he was
Today's
clear
town
about
doesn't,
that.
that was my recollection.
But you can
I'll
ask
double
him
check.
about that too.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
I don't see the equitable nature of charging the town, and then that drops in the budget, and it ends up back on,
Right.
the taxpayer, both
Right.
homeowners and, commercial and industrial. So,
I'm assuming
No.
Rob celebrated Pi Day the other day.
yeah.
Yeah.
good. All
WPI.
right, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? We have a second.
Who said?
Any discussion?
Yes.
Beth, go ahead.
Brown, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Moretti, yes. Thank you, Westborough TV. Thank you, folks, thank you to our guests from the audience for
I did not.
asking
That
those
was received.
questions.
Andrew, did you make a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Rob made a motion, I seconded it.
Second.
Everybody said.
Everybody said,
Oh, yeah, Brad.
everybody says I'm tired.
Okay, Rob, motion.
So you still.
That's adjourned.